welcome you all today. My name is Bruce Mance. I'm an associate dean in the grad school at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. I'm also the director of our postdoc office and our career development office. And so very excited to welcome you to our first virtual postdoc recruiting event. So what we hope to do today is really start a conversation, okay? I'm going to give you, for the first half hour or so, I'm going to give you an overview of our campus, introduce you to the postdoc office team, the career development office team, give you a chance to hear from a current member of our postdoc association talking about the PDA and why they chose Anschutz, and then give you an opportunity to hear from some of our faculty leaders and mentors on campus. There is no way that I'm going to be able to cover everything, so we're going to give a high-level overview. If you have questions after today's event, we really do want to hear from you. Hopefully, we will be able to get to the questions either that you posed when you registered or that you asked today. But if not, we absolutely want to make sure we're getting you the information that you need. Our main goal is to really get you thinking about CU Anschutz as a destination for postdoc training. So maybe you're already thinking about that. Maybe you're not, but I'm hoping at the end of today, you really will be thinking about us as one of those premier institutions that you would consider for your own postdoc. Before we go any further, though, we want to do a quick poll just to figure out who is here today. So Aaron's going to open up a poll. It will give you about a minute and a half to answer the 4 questions that are there. And then we'll have the awkward silence as people are answering the poll. Just awkward for me. That's one of the things I've learned about myself, is that I don't do well in quiet. Okay. About 50% done. Three-quarters done. I think you can do it in under a minute. I do. I'm watching. You got 19 seconds. %. Okay, another 5 seconds. We got people just joining right now. Aaron, you want to? We'll close the poll and go off. We're at 92%. Okay. So sharing results. So looks like most people are PhD students. So that's great. Super common. Couple postdocs. Thinking, can you scroll down on that poll for me? There you go. Thinking within the next year, next 1 to 2 years. So perfect. So people are really at that point where you've done some reflection on, should I do a postdoc? Thinking maybe this is something I want to do in the next couple of years. Actively looking for a postdoc, so great. At the end of today's session, we're going to give you some resources for ways that you can find that. And then who's thinking about Anschutz? All right, so some of you are thinking of us already as that powerhouse that we are. Some maybe just another institution. Fair chunk, about 22%, haven't really heard about us before. So that's what we want to do today, is really get us on the map for those institutions that you're thinking about for your postdoc training. Okay. And close that, Aaron. All right. So the University of Colorado Anschutz, this can be a little confusing. And so the first thing we wanted to do is clarify a little bit who we are and where we are. We are one of 4 universities within the Colorado system. Most of you have heard of CU Boulder. When you think about the University of Colorado, that's probably what you're considering. Boulder is in the north, or the top left corner of the map I'm showing you there. It's about 45 minutes from Denver, nestled right in the Flatirons and the foothills. One thing on this map we did want to point out is that everything to the left there in the green, that's mountains. That is the nice foothills. And so when you're sitting in Denver, that's kind of what you're looking at. Within Denver itself, we have the University of Colorado Denver, which is our primary undergraduate institution. There are also graduate programs there. There are postdocs there. But CU Denver really has a focus more on those undergraduate programs. In Aurora, which is in the northeast corner of Denver, that's where the Anschutz Medical Campus is. We are a standalone health sciences campus. So with the exception of some bioengineering students and some nursing students. We really don't have any undergrads on our campus. Way down to the south there is Colorado Springs. That's about 80 miles away. You can see Pikes Peak from the Anschutz campus, though, so it's not that far away. So one of the reasons that this is going to become important is when we start talking about the institution and funding and the research that we do, names matter. And so all of the funding that we have shows up under the University of Colorado, Denver. But CU Denver and CU Anschutz are separate institutions. If you've ever been to Denver before and you've flown into DIA and then driven up to the mountains, you have likely driven right by our campus and maybe even didn't know that it is here. On the campus itself, though, we are the largest academic health science complex in the region. One of the things we're going to cover today is that it's not just in the region that we want you to think about us. We are actually a premier institution within the nation. On our campus, we have 6 health and professional schools. So the School of Medicine, College of Nursing, Colorado School of Public Health, the School of Dental Medicine, the Graduate School, and which one did I forget? I counted off 5. But no, anyway, okay. So because of that, because of the breadth of the schools that we have a lot of research that spans basic clinical and translational and really provides faculty those opportunities to work from bench to bedside. We have over 60 different institutes and centers, so this is way too many to cover in today's session, so I'll dive into some details of some of those later. But again, all of the focus areas we have, usually there is some kind of nucleus of faculty researchers who are working in that area. We have 2 nationally ranked hospitals on our campus, so the University of Colorado Hospital and Children's Hospital Colorado. So again, where you see the marker for the University of Colorado, that's really where our research institutions are, and then the hospitals are just to the south. In the Nature reviews, they had a Nature index that came out recently. CU Anschutz was actually ranked 24th in the world for the measure of health science impact. So again, we are one of those institutions that is really driving innovations in patient care and human health with the work that we do. In fiscal year 23, we had over $860 million in sponsored research and gifts. This is more than CU Boulder. So again, people often think about CU Boulder as really being that premier flagship institution. But when you look at the amount of research that is occurring in the research dollars that come in, CU Anschutz actually tops that list for Colorado. And on our campus, we have over 1,500 principal investigators, and currently we have over 3,500 active clinical trials. So again, lots of information or lots of opportunities to build those collaborations between practicing physicians, clinical research, and basic science. The research that we did, it really does span bench to bedside. So we're working in lots of different groundbreaking areas: Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, Down syndrome. We have one of 50 comprehensive cancer centers on campus. So a couple of our faculty are very involved in cancer research, and they can talk a little bit more about that. The Center for Health AI and the Department of Biomedical Informatics, they're really looking at big data to analyze and transform human health. The CU Anschutz is actually part of a recent NIH initiative where they're putting $130 million over 4 years in their Bridge to AI program. So CU Anschutz faculty are active participants in that. The Ludeman Center for Women's Health Research, this is really focused on cutting edge technology mentorship, outreach to address knowledge gaps in gender and sex specific diseases. Excitingly, we recently had a visit from First Lady Jill Biden. She chose one of 4 universities to visit for her women's health initiative and chose Anschutz because of the work that's happening at the Ludeman Center. And then CU Innovations. So this is our technology transfer office. So CU Innovations is really focused on helping our researchers think about how do you take those ideas that you have in the laboratory and turn them into some kind of product that can actually transform human health. They build a lot of connections with the surrounding bioscience community. And Denver is actually a hub now for investment in the biosciences. I think oftentimes when people think about where is the impactful bioscience and biotech happening, obviously they're thinking of the coasts, they're thinking of the Boston area and the Bay Area, but we're doing a lot of work here in Denver. So over the last 7 years, we have had over $1 billion put into the bioscience market. a recent CNBC article, and we can send you the links to all of these things, really demonstrated the impact that Colorado is having. And so we're moving on to that map of where can you do impactful life science research, both in industry and in academia. And then just a little shout out here. This is a picture of Rick Sen, who is a former CU Anschutz postdoc. Rick is now a group leader and a senior field application scientist at Active Motif. He was very involved with our postdoc association. I'm going to do this throughout today, kind of highlight some of those people who have worked here and the things they've moved on to. So when it comes to the actual research that's happening, though, we also want you to think about CU Anschutz as one of those institutions that is leading. This is looking at top NIH grant recipients, so all mechanisms from fiscal year 21 to 23. And you can see that, again, this is where that naming convention comes in, the University of Colorado, Denver. But really, when we talk about NIH funding, we're talking about CU Anschutz. We were 17th out of all universities in the country for total funding. In addition to that NIH funding, you might have heard of some of the ARPA-H initiatives. So ARPA-H was a new funding opportunity to really look at how do we, at scalable speed, move those advancements in creating devices, therapeutics. How do we actually take the research we're doing and put it into practical terms? This is modeled after the DARPA initiative, which is a Defense Department thing. And so again, this is an exciting new opportunity. We have some DARPA-funded investigators who are working with our Gates Biomanufacturing Center for this. And so Dr. Karen Payne and Michael Zusek are leading this exciting opportunity. I'll highlight that they're also the PIs on a T32. So when we're thinking about training grants, getting involved with some of those training grants in these different areas also gets you in connection with these different opportunities. In addition to that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that can support your postdoc training provided through our Clinical and Translational Sciences Award, which funds the Colorado Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute, or the CCTSI. But this is a $54 million award that was just renewed again, and this provides a lot of opportunities both to do specific research, but then also to support researchers. And finally, we have individual faculty who have received very prestigious awards. So an $18 million award to fund some Down syndrome research. So again, you know, CU Anschutz is an institution that is bringing together people who are doing extremely impactful research and receive quite a bit of NIH and other funding. Specifically for you, one of those questions that came in for the registrations were, what are those opportunities to get involved with training grants? And so again, looking over that same 3-year time span, CU Anschutz is actually 13th in the country for the number of T32s that we have. So you'll see a list of some of those T32s on the right side of the slide. You can find this information on the postdoc office website, and we'll give you some other places where you can learn more about what those T32s are. But again, we really are one of those premier institutions for the number of training grants that we have to support our postdocs. In fiscal year 23, I'll point out that we're actually 10th in the country. So this is that 3-year average. So lots of opportunities. If you come here, you join a lab, you're doing research, but you want to get some of those training grant support, those opportunities are there. For you specifically, though, really thinking about an F-32. So one of the best things you can do for your career is to continue to receive NIH funding and establish your own history of funding. And so you may have had an F-31, and so the next step in that is to get an F-32. And so again, looking over those 3-year period of time, we're actually 9th in the country for the number of our postdocs who have an F-32 mechanism. A lot of this comes from a program that we built here to support our PhD students and postdocs, to help them go through that process of putting together their application and submitting it. So we have an NRSA program that was developed through the grad school and the postdoc office that would pair participants up with an additional faculty member to get some review of their proposal, and then it gets to undergo a full mock review before they would submit it. About 40% of our participants have gone on to receive funding. So again, this is over 3 years. In fiscal year 23, we're actually 5th in the country for the number of F-32s that we have. So lots of research opportunities for our postdocs to start establishing their own history of funding. The last thing I'd mention about this slide is that these are absolute numbers. Okay, this is not normalized for the number of postdocs you have at an institution. So Stanford, for example, has 2,000 postdocs. CU Anschutz has about 350 postdocs. So if you look at the percentage of our postdocs who actually have their own individual funding, we do much better than even those top institutions. So to tell you a little bit more about our postdocs, so who are they? As I just mentioned, we have about, at any one point in time, 320 postdocs. Over the course of a year, we have somewhere between 400 and 450 because we have people starting and leaving, constant churn throughout that year. About 19% of our postdocs come from groups who are historically underrepresented in the sciences. About 55% of our postdocs identify as female. 32% of our postdocs are international. So lots of opportunity to have both diversity of thought, diversity of experiences. On average, postdocs spend about 2.5 years at CU Anschutz. So I think one of the things that I want to say to students is that sometimes people think about a postdoc as going to be that's 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, however long it may be. But the data don't actually support that. And so how long your postdoc is going to depend on what you want to do for your career. And at CU Anschutz, the average time is about 2.5 years. Our postdocs, when they're done, so 2.5 years is up, a lot of them stay in Colorado. Again, it's a great place to live. We're going to go through some of those things as well. But you see the highest density. This is postdoc alumni data over the last 10 years. The highest density is right here in Colorado. People come out, they really like it, and they find those opportunities to stay. The other areas really would be kind of East Coast, West Coast, but we are spread all throughout the US. We have about an even split between who goes into academic careers and who goes into industry careers. Again, because CU Anschutz is an R1 institution, most of our postdocs go into more research-intensive positions, so higher percentages of faculty in the R1 kind of research domain than we have at education, so less teaching opportunities. Within industry, most folks go into those scientific routes, but we really do spread the wide variety of career options that are out there. We have postdocs who have gone on into government positions, who are working for not-for-profits, medical writing. So when we talk about industry, industry is not monolithic. There are a lot of different things that you can do within the bioscience industry. And so our postdocs really do represent a lot of different career options. Just to highlight a number of those institutions that they go into, most of them, again, stay at CU Anschutz, but we are kind of spread all throughout. And then a lot of the bioscience companies that go into have those satellite facilities in the Denver metro area. So when you think about that, though, if you work for a company like Pfizer, you could work here in Boulder until recently. You could work in that satellite facility area, or you can transfer to other locations because there are those bigger companies. So lots of opportunities to actually work in both academic and bioscience industry careers. So helping them get along that way, this is where I want to talk a little bit about the resources that are here available to support you, just the way that they are to support our other postdocs. The team that we have to support you in this process. And so one of the things that I do want to stress from this is that our institution really does value and invest in postdocs. And some of the first evidence for that is the fact that we actually have a team that focuses both on postdoc affairs and career development that is staffed by people who have PhD experience and are actually all alumni of our institution. So when we think about the career exploration phase, that's myself and Dr. Hannah Hathaway. Hannah is a former president of the PDA. After she finished her postdoc, she went and worked as a high school biology teacher for a number of years before I was able to lure her back here to come work and support for postdocs. Dr. Aaron Golden, who you have met hopefully through some of these communications, is also a former postdoc, very involved vice president of the Postdoc Association, founder of one of our other organizations called Project Bridge, which is a science communication group. After Aaron's postdoc, she was the director of the science fair, the high school science fair for the Denver metro area, as well as the director of undergraduate research on the CU Denver campus, and has now come back to work and support postdocs. For the career development piece, we're really centered around this philosophy that it all starts with you. So you get exposed to do a lot of different things in science, right? Each one of those can be its own standalone career. You may love every aspect of it. You may like all the things that you get to do. You could do a lot of that in a faculty career. But if you find that you really like coming up with the ideas, or you like providing advice, or you're somebody who's really big on data analysis or communicating it. All of those are also standalone careers. So what do you really like? But in addition to what you like professionally, there's who you are personally. So what are you bringing to this situation? What is the value that you offer because of your own lived experiences? Once you know that, once you know, here's what I like to do professionally, here's who I am personally, then you can start looking for those careers that allow you to do those things. The next piece in this, though, which is really where we leverage our postdoctoral alumni, is this process of informational interviewing. So talking to people who are where you, who were where you are now, but are now doing something else. What was their journey like? What did they really enjoy about their career? What are things they wish that they had done sooner? This is critical to help you establish that professional network. As I mentioned, our postdocs are all over the place doing tons of things. So no matter what you want to do, the likelihood is we have somebody who was a postdoc here who's now doing that same thing. Very happy to give back and connect and give you that kind of insight. So talking to people becomes very important for your own career transition, as does testing things out. And so Dr. Alan Morris is going to tell us a little bit about the PDA and why he got involved in a minute. But that is that opportunity for you to put some of these things into practice. When you're doing your postdoc, you get to test drive a faculty career. But if you're interested in medical writing or you're interested in science policy, how do you test some of those things out? But at the end of the day, you just come back to the beginning, right? This is hypothesis driven. Here's what I think I want to do. Run some experiments. Does it seem like that is confirmed? Does it seem like you're rejecting it? But we're here to support you through that process of figuring out what is the next step on your path. And we do that through a number of different ways. So we run workshops a couple of times a month that are focused on a couple different tracks. So one is those career skills. So how do you do things like informational interviewing? How do you build an effective LinkedIn network, LinkedIn profile? But regardless of the position you move into, you're going to be a leader, right? So whether you're running your own group in academia or you're running a group in industry, you are going to be in a position of leadership. And so how do you start stepping into those spaces? Lots of workshops on these, but in addition to that, we have some special programs. So the Individual Career Exploration Research Program, or iSearch, this brings together a lot of our a la carte workshops, but puts you in a cohort with other students and other postdocs so that you can have that peer network as you're exploring the different career options. We also do individual coaching. So if you ever want to sit down and talk about, hey, what are the options that are available to me, or you're applying for a position and you want feedback on your resume or you're interviewing, we set up those times to support you as well. And then to highlight all of this and to bring it all together, we run an alumni series where we invite our postdoc alumni to come talk about the kinds of careers that they're doing. So I have pictured here Mark Lucera. So Mark is a former postdoc member of the Postdoc Association. He now is the head of strategy at the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, which is a nonprofit out of DC. But before that, he was the director for biological threats and global security at the National Security Council. So he advised the president and vice president and ahead of the NSC on how do we get ready to prevent pandemics. Mark, after his postdoc, went and did a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellowship and made some of those career steps from there. But again, this is somebody who has this remarkable career and understands what it's like to be at Anschutz. So leveraging the power of our alumni is something that we think is really important. And then the last thing to mention for supporting this, the CDO is not the only office that supports you. As I mentioned, the CCTSI has a number of different programs. They run the Pre-F program, which is the NRSA mock review program that I mentioned before, but they also have one for Ks. So if you're thinking about the step beyond an F32 and you're putting in a K99, there's also an opportunity to get that kind of grant support. Learning how to talk about your research becomes really important for lots of different reasons, but they run workshops on communicating your science to the public and a number of other different opportunities as well. So these are the things that the Career Development Office offers. The Postdoc Association really gives you a chance to get connected to your peers and put into practice some of these things that you're learning. So gaining those leadership skills. It's great to learn about emotional intelligence. It's something else to actually practice that. And so getting involved with the PDA can be a really helpful way to start building some of that and get you connected to campus. This is an opportunity where you can serve on the executive council. You can advocate for institutional change, things like parental leave, or if you have an idea of a way that the institution could be supporting better but isn't, this is that first stop for you to take it to them. Also opportunities for you to share your research. So they run a monthly seminar series. So this is a chance where you can get up and talk about a presentation you're going to give at a conference, or you want to practice giving a job talk, or you want to talk about, talk about anything else. These are opportunities to do that. Once a year, we have Postdoc Research Day, which is a campus-wide celebration of postdocs and the contributions they make to campus. And so lots of opportunities for you to get engaged with your fellow postdocs and start developing those communication skills. Most importantly, though, it's these opportunities to network, to build those connections. I mentioned some of the companies where people are working at now. There's a company called Oxford Pharmagenesis that's a medical writing company. There are about 4 postdocs who used to all be part of the Postdoc Association together that are working at that company. And it all started because one went there and then she recruited some of her friends. So opportunities to build those connections happen at coffee hours. There are trivia events. We do lots of things during National Postdoc Appreciation Week to build some of that community. A new program that they're just starting up is Shadow of Fellow Postdocs. This is a chance for you to kind of get in the lab with another postdoc and see, what is their day-to-day like, learn about that research that they're working on. That's a program that was just an idea somebody had. And so starting those things off. Again, if you have an idea for something that you think would make the experience better, the PDA is a great place for you to start that. And then the postdoc office is really here to support all of those logistical aspects to your training. So we provide a new postdoc orientation, entrance surveys, exit surveys, really anything to help ensure that you are getting the most out of the experience that you have when you're with us. We provide expertise and counsel to different offices on campus, helping with postdoc training related issues or postdoc policy issues. We serve on national committees, so we're very engaged with the National Postdoc Association and the Association of American Medical Colleges group on research, education, and training are great. And that feeds into our sustaining membership in the NPA. So again, our sustaining membership gives you a free affiliate membership that can actually help you, participate in different webinars that they do, discounted registration rate at the national conference. We always support the head of the PDA attending that conference so that our postdocs get to share out all the great programming that they're doing. All right, it's a lot of information. Again, just want to give you that high-level introduction. I think one of the things you're probably most interested in is this compensation and benefits stuff, because you're thinking about, the training area. How do I actually, how do I do that? So want to point out that in 2024, CU Anschutz was actually named one of America's best large employers. So we are recognized, for the kind of environment that we have. CU Anschutz has a competitive postdoc salary. So we have a mandatory minimum that requires all postdocs make at least the NIH year 0, which is currently $61, is actually $008. So we $72 over on that one, 61,000. But the NIH has made it clear that their intention is to move towards a minimum of 70. And so in our current policy, we would follow those levels as well. One of the things that I think I definitely want to stress, though, is that CU Anschutz, one of the investments that CU Anschutz makes in our postdocs is we have navigated the process to ensure that our postdocs receive the same employee level benefits regardless of their funding source. So as you're looking at different postdoc institutions, one of the things you should be asking is, if I get an F, am I still an employee? If I get that fellowship, or do I become a fellow? And oftentimes what happens is that when someone is initially hired on their advisor's R01, they're an employee and they have all these great employee level benefits, and then they get an individual fellowship and they lose all of those benefits. And that's a financial investment from an institution to ensure that that doesn't happen. But we have done that here. And so regardless of your funding source, you have access to regular employee level medical, dental, vision, unemployment, access to voluntary retirement plans, and the tuition waiver program. So you can take up to 9 credits per year for free. So a lot of benefits, and those are extended to all of our postdocs, no matter how they're funded. In addition to university holidays, postdocs get 12 vacation days and 12 sick days, as well as 6 weeks of paid parental leave. FMLA is just job protection, but the family leave program is a Colorado-specific benefit, and this actually allows you to extend some of that parental leave beyond the 6 weeks provided by the university. And then finally, our postdocs are considered equivalent to medical residents for the purposes of loan deferment, so you can actually defer your loans when you're here. But because postdocs are considered an employee category, those loan payments that you would start making actually count towards things like the public service loan forgiveness program. So we can address more questions that you may have as they come up about specific compensation and benefits. And again, this information is available and we will share it with you.
Hey, Bruce, just briefly, there's an emoji window covering part of that slide. Looks like
there's an emoji window. Is it gone now?
We emote a lot at Anschutz. Yes, it's gone now.
Okay, do you see the participant list?
All the emotions are the postdoc feels. We cannot see the participant list. You're good.
Okay, now we're good. Thank you. Apologies for that. But with that, let's talk about all the great emojis you will feel when you see how beautiful Denver is. So the last piece of this before we transition is just to give you a little bit of information about living in Denver. So we have beautiful scenery. There are lots of things to do. I mentioned all that greenery in the map. The foothills are close by. There are lots of open spaces and parks. I think Denver has some of the most parks per capita of any city in the US. The pictures that I showed here, these are not Colorado stock pictures. These are pictures Erin took with her phone while she was driving around. So this is the stuff that is available to you. We have a thriving cultural scene. So Red Rocks Amphitheater, you probably have heard about it. It's an amazing place to go, but lots of other opportunities from art museums to breweries to cuisine. Denver really is, one of those vibrant cities right now. So lots of opportunities to get connected for that. We have lots of sports teams, right? I mean, so it's fun. You don't have to be a huge sports fan, but going to events, going to Rockies games, as bad as they are, part of the reason they are that bad is it's such a fun experience that people still go for that. Right now, the Nuggets, I was worried I wasn't going to be able to say anything about the Nuggets because it was looking pretty bleak, but then they rebounded. And so we can talk about them for that. The Broncos, are very much like Bruno. Nobody talks about Bruno. Nobody talks about the Broncos lately. So I have kids. It's an Encanto joke. But lots of opportunities. So Denver can be a very fun place to live as well. And then the last thing, I know oftentimes finances really are at the front of everyone's mind. But when you look at the cost of living comparison, so this is a composite cost of living looking at different cities in the US, where 100 is the average city, okay? And you look at where Denver ranks on this list. We're 10th on this list. I'm not going to tell you that it is affordable to live in Denver. It's not, right? It is hard because it's a great place to live. A lot of people want to live here. But when you look at it compared to those other cities, New York, San Francisco, Boston, DC, LA, Seattle, we are much more affordable than those institutions. And hopefully at this point, what you realize is the caliber of the research that we're doing here is every bit as good as anything you're going to get in the Bay Area or in Boston. We have lots of opportunities. So again, Denver, I think, offers, in terms of all of the things you have to consider about where would you want to do that training, I think we offer a lot of pluses. But that's hearing it from me. And you may be thinking, that's my responsibility to try to sell you on something. And that's not what I want to do. I want to present you with some data so you can look at that and make your own decisions.